Well, I'm just trying to hash this out. It's been like over 10 years of me not dealing with my feelings, and I'm attempting to do that. And of course, everyone and their mother wants to come talk to me right now, and I'm just referring to my asshole roommate who just woke up, and it is 3 o'clock. When now all of a sudden wants to tell me how he's going to be busy all night doing his homework. What a nightmare. What a nightmare, really. So 10 years ago, I had like the perfect relationship. I was so happy, and I'd never really been happy before. Didn't have much of a tolerance for it. So I kind of freaked out. In the moment, I could see myself. Cats. Like I could see, my boyfriend pouring love into me. And that was so cool. I didn't realize how much I needed it. So, the last 10 years have been really awful. And I feel for myself because I was like just a kid, I was doing my best, but I was like so innocent and pure and naive, and I fully didn't think people were going to be mean to me again in my life. So I don't know. I'm so stressed. I'm like really wanted to start this on a positive note. I don't want to like cut it and start recording again. This is a really, really hard topic. I might just have to, because Jackson has just completely stressed me out being an asshole, like he always is. Yeah, I mean, I don't know. I should have done so many things differently with Jeremiah. I'm so hurt that, some of the stuff that he just like asked of me, I accepted, and now later I'm like, oh my God, he's like actually dating his ex-girlfriend. The one that he like would always tell me about. It's taken quite a few days for this, actually a couple months really, for the sting of that to wear off a little bit. Because, when we first got together, people didn't think I really liked him. They knew he really liked me. And, they were just projecting. And we were like actually dating each other. Like I was really getting to know him. And he was getting to know me. He was just being really honest with me about himself. And he let me judge him for his past. And that must have been hard for him. But he was so honest with me. I loved you, Jeremiah. People would say really mean things about him to me, and I never thought any of that. I did repeat some of those mean things that girls had said to me to Zizi, and I'm sure she told him that that's what I had felt. But this is so fucked up. You know, I spent like the first 5 years after we broke up just, you know, focusing on the bad. And then counting the birthdays of my baby. That consumed most of my life. You know, just stuck in this hurricane every day for years. And I called Maya. I called him like, keep it together, girl. I called him a couple times. I think maybe after 2 years, hadn't heard much from him. He did text me a little bit right after we split up, and I was so angry. I was just like, don't ever call me again. Like, if I never talk to you, it'll be too soon. I was just... It opened up that wound in me from my high school sweetheart who cheated on me. And I had gotten over that. Like, I really mourned that. But I refused to let myself get over Jeremiah because I never wanted to admit that I was into him. It was way easier to just be like, no, he liked me more. And then I just, like, you know, started kind of dying. And, you know, he was so nice to me. He loved me. He knew the music that I liked, and he would bring those bands to town. He'd give me an opportunity to meet them and talk to them. You know, I look back on our time together, and I'm just like, I spent way too much time with people that didn't matter and not enough time with Jeremiah. I just figured he'd always be there because he liked me so much. I felt so, I felt like just so confident, you know, and like realizing that like I hadn't really been loved like that at all before. I don't know, I freaked out. I didn't know what to do with it. I just gave the love to other people rather than giving it back to him. So dumb. So yeah, it was like in 2012, that was when I started realizing like Jeremiah really does matter to me. None of these other people really matter. They're just like fake friends that only really liked me after Jeremiah came into my life, and they all told me that he was no good, you know. So I that always really hurt me, you know, and so I was really defensive of him, and I think that just made girls like more interested in him, and he liked that, you know. He was getting a lot of attention. I'm really having a hard time focusing. I'm thinking about how we would go grocery shopping together, and I loved doing that with Jeremiah. It was so fun. Every little thing that we did together, I had a great time. It was like I had a chance to live my childhood again. And like a calendar, 4 years passed, and everything fell apart. So, 2012, he was really trying harder to connect with me at the beginning, and then he kind of stopped. He was like coming home for lunch, and I was just so out of it. A lot of the time he would tell me, oh, I'm gonna come home for lunch, and then I wouldn't be there. I'd like be on a bike ride or something, and he'd be like, oh, I came home for lunch, like I said, and you weren't there. And I could like, I was so like out of my mind trying to get sober, like from ecstasy, and dealing with all of this, all of these crazy other. I was just around so many crazy people, and I started becoming crazy too. And he would do all these like really sweet things, and I was like so closed off to him loving me, because like I had forgiven him, for cheating on me, because it wasn't like we had said we were monogamous yet. But I like, it hurt, man. And that's when I knew. I was like, you're screwed. You love this guy, and he's already cheated on you. It'll never work. But I held on because I just... Jeremiah could make, sitting outside a good time. He could make, I just always had fun with him. It didn't matter. So, I knew like how happy I was. And I knew myself well enough that I was like, whoa, he loves you, dude. And it was like okay for me to love him back. It's the first time in my life that I wasn't the one like loving, I was being loved. And I loved it. But I was terrible at it. I didn't know what I was doing. I didn't know how to do it. So yeah, he'd do all these really sweet things, and then I remember I told him, don't come home at lunch anymore. I'm busy. And I wasn't working at the time. I was just gaining weight and drinking, and he was just like, what have I gotten myself into? And that's what everyone else was telling him, and I didn't really know what I was running from at that time. I just would get so uncomfortable when he would be so nice to me, and he was never ever mean to me. He was always nice. And it made me freak out. This whole video's just completely unusable, but I can't record it again. When you cry, people assume you're manipulating me. I don't know how to talk about Jeremiah without crying, so I just haven't talked about it. You know that song by the Magnetic Fields? I don't want to get over you. I'd listen to that song and I would go back into those feelings. I just kept waiting for him to call me. Anyway, oh my god, what am I talking about? So, I think we spent, what did we do for Christmas all those years? 2010. I feel like we had Christmas with his siblings. Billy came into the picture at some point, I think, to be my friend, because I didn't really have any good friends. And then I was a terrible person at that point, so then I would say terrible things, and Billy would just be like, girl, are you serious? So I get it. I honestly kind of respected his friends and family for making me the bad guy. Because they could, I was the only new person. everyone else had been there, I just emboldened them to be terrible. Because, I don't know, I think many people have that attitude where it's like, you don't be too nice to girls because they'll just take advantage. And I think most people don't understand that, like, most girls really haven't been loved in their lives like the way that a man can. And Jeremiah he loved me, and I felt so good. So, how do I stay focused? I was like drunk on those feelings for years. Wanted to make a band with my friend Aubrey. Aubrey had moved in with Jeremiah and that was my big plan. But Aubrey was drinking a lot. She would get like a 40 rack or, one of those huge racks of beer and like drink it all. And, so that didn't work out. And I wanted to make a band with Jamie, and Jamie didn't like really want to. Wanted to make a band with ZZ. ZZ couldn't play anything. Everyone I asked to collaborate with me, they didn't want to. And then I didn't want to ask, like, I just wanted to do it myself. I didn't want to have Jeremiah like ask his friends, like, hey, will you play music with Catherine? I just wanted people to want to play with me. But I understand why they didn't, because I was just hanging out with these like loser people. So I like did it to myself, more than anything. And then other people just came along and were like, oh, well, if you don't care about yourself, then why are you with this guy that cares about you so much? Like, screw you. So, once I did kind of get sober and I like went fully sober, we were hanging with his parents more. And I remember going to their house for like Christmas. Jeremiah was always kind of weird about like holidays. But I remember hanging with his family, and they were kind of like, what's the next move for you guys? Because they saw like how happy we were, and they knew, what the scene was like that he was in. So they really just wanted to get him, married, and I did too. And I was just so scared of that. My mom had kind of scared me off the idea of marriage. She was like, you shouldn't get married young, like wait. I'm not saying it's her fault, but years of advice of saying how terrible marriage is, it definitely doesn't sound like a good idea. When someone proposes it to you, you're like, what do you mean? Isn't that a bad thing? So yeah. We had that like, serious conversation about where we thought we were going, and I didn't know, I wasn't sure about having kids, and with his work schedule, he just worked constantly, so I just, I was apprehensive. I didn't know what to expect, and then I was just counting on other people that weren't my boyfriend. So like I did it to myself, like I would call other people instead of him. So I made hundreds and hundreds of mistakes, and he would level with me and try to get me to understand where he was coming from and why he wanted me to do these things. And I think he eventually was just like, just work, just get a job doing something, be a waitress, again, work at a coffee shop again. And so I did that, and but then I started, when he was talking to me like that, I was like, oh wow, like something has happened. I quickly went from like being very desirable young college student to like a hot mess, and I didn't really see the transition. Everyone else did, and Jeremiah was trying to kind of like save me from it. But once my friends were aware that that's what what was happening, they're like, oh no, dog pile. So they did. And So I did I'll always remember. I don't know if I blocked it out for a long time, but I've replayed our breakup conversation tons of times. I was like, I got so upset when he said he wanted to break up with me. Because nothing was really working. It was just a lot of things rolled into one. So I understand why he made that choice. But I just, I think most of the problems we had, we could have sorted out if we had talked to each other instead of other people. So, yeah, he was like, I think we should break up. Kind of at the beginning of January. And I took that really hard. And he was just like, look, I'll find you a place. We don't have to, like, break up right away. We can still keep dating. And it was like, well, if you don't want to live together, why would we still keep dating? So I didn't like really see that he was trying to let me down easy. Because I had put on weight, and I had a lot of issues with friends and people in the scene, and he had told me at a couple points, like, you really got to be careful. And I didn't know what he meant by that. So when I would establish a boundary with a friend who had done something that I didn't like, and he would tell me, like, oh, you got to be careful with them, I would assume that meant, like, you need to be nice, you need to be friends with them anyway. So I would just kind of, like, go back on my word. And so people just had this totally a weird read on me. I was in a really odd place, going from just a working stiff to arm candy to I think in 2012 is when Renee and I opened. No, that had to have been, yeah, that was in 2014. And we had, like, just, I don't know, I'm so avoiding trying to talk about 2013. So I've been talking for 22 minutes, and I have not said anything about it because it was the worst year of my life by far. Everything before that, there was still a chance. So he was, like, being really gentle with me. He had been talking for months about this new assistant and how great she was and how much I would like her. And I'd heard him say that for years about people that he wanted to sleep with. So I was just like, okay. I wasn't going to as many shows. He would invite me to things, and I, like, would just sleep instead. And he'd call me, like, babe, or he would never call me babe. He didn't like that. But he would call and be like, Catherine, I thought you were going to come down. There's people waiting to see you. So yeah, it was just, everything was just, like, falling apart, and I was trying to ignore it in the hopes that it would go back to normal. But it didn't. Like, we had a couple little house parties. Jeremiah threw a surprise party for me, I think, in 2012. He invited all my friends. And it was weird. That's when I realized, like, oh, these aren't, like, any of my real friends. What have I been doing? Oh my God. So back to 2013. So then I moved into a friend's guest house. And I was living there. And then Jeremiah, I think, was still, like, in love with me, but he was fucking someone else, and he felt guilty about it. So he was, like, I'm sure he'd been telling himself that sex with me was bad because he wasn't, like, trying to connect with me, and he hadn't been, and I wasn't trying to connect with him. So, like, I get it. So yeah, we hooked up like that was one of the last times, and I got pregnant, and it was like shortly after my birthday that I realized, like, I was working at Lux and I threw up, and I was listening to a lot of real estate at the time, and it's in my purse. Went over to my friend's house, took a pregnancy test. It's in one of those pockets. There's only so many pockets. Please stop yelling because I want my child to stay asleep. Fuck you. You don't say shut up. It's very rude. So anyway, yeah. The average person has a relationship just like the one I have right now. And I had like a magical, awesome relationship. So I guess even having that for 4 years is, I guess, a lot more than most people have. So yeah, he brought Daniel Johnston to town. I got to meet Daniel. Okay, so focus on 2013. I got pregnant. I had moved out of his house. He was really excited. I didn't tell him at first. I just told my friend Renee, and then she told everyone else. And that was my first mistake. I should have just told him right away. Because then everyone else knew before him, and that would make anyone feel bad. So, other people telling him Catherine's pregnant threw him for a loop. So I see that now. And at first he was like, oh my God, wow, this is great. Like, we can totally do this from like 2 houses. And I was just devastated at that news. Because he didn't want to get back together because he had been sleeping with Alyssa at that point. And I'd met Alyssa. And I was like, oh shit. He's totally fucking hurt. Because he stopped coming home on lunch breaks. We wouldn't go shopping and do like couple activities. He would just ask me to come meet him at shows or work door with him every once in a while. And when I say every once in a while, it's like maybe once a week. Outside? No.
Where is he?
I don't know. So yeah, I was working for him quite a bit at some points, but yeah, that definitely tapered off. And so I guess in March, Zizi found out she was pregnant, and I didn't know at the time, what to do. So I didn't want to live in separate houses, and he didn't want to get back together. Everything would have worked out if I'd had the baby. Maybe he would have tried to take the baby away. Maybe he wouldn't have. Maybe he just said crazy stuff because he was mad and he thought I was cheating because we had broken up, and I made out with this guy, PJ. Just made out with him because we had broken up, and it had been, I had known that Jeremiah was fooling around. I didn't have any proof, but I suspected it because he was, he was staying home late, or he was staying at work late and not coming home, or, like I said, he stopped doing all the things that he did for the first 3 years. In that last year, it just kind of, oh, I gotta stay late at work, and I was like, oh no, I've seen movies, I know what this means. So, yeah, that was March of 2013, and, my mom, I told my mom was like, you should get an abortion, and that just, gutted me. I had very, very little, confidence left at that point, because I'd watched my boyfriend, flirt with all of these girls, so, I definitely wasn't feeling like he was attracted to me. I see dating coaches say, oh, everyone wants competition, like not in your relationship. If you feel like your partner's into someone else, like that didn't make me want to. I'm not even doing my makeup. That didn't make me want to, you know, try harder to get his affection or whatever. It just fucking, yeah, it just made me feel dumb for loving him because I realized I was in love with him. At first, it was just love. And then I realized I was in love. And, you know, he had the potential to hurt me then. So I just kind of started pulling away because I knew it was going to hurt anyway. Yeah, so it was like in April that I was like, wow, this is getting real. Like, he didn't want to hang out with me. He was like fully hanging out with Alyssa and, you know, like dating his assistant. And I wasn't doing any shows anymore. And I was kind of freaking out, you know. Crescent had been open for like maybe a year and a half, 2 years at that point. And that was like our baby. We had worked so hard to do that. And when I say we, I mean Jeremiah. But I kept it a secret. He asked me to keep it a secret, and I did. I think he thought that I would tell everyone, but I didn't, because I'm not a big mouth. I am right now. So, yeah, I don't even, there's so many cool things that happened along the way. We went to, two music festivals in 2012. We went to Pitchfork. We went to That Was Easy. And that was, you know, like we linked up with her. She had been traveling. And she was just being really flirtatious with Jeremiah. And at that point, like, I was just so desensitized to it. I was like, you know what? If they have had sex, I guess that's it. Like, she was like one of my best friends at the time. And I was like, if both of my friends feel like they can do that and just move on with life, it's probably... It's probably... Yeah, I don't know. There were just so many things where it was like my head and my heart. My heart wanted, you know, Jeremiah. But my head was like, he doesn't want you, bro. Like, I didn't give him enough attention and affection in like a, you know, a finite window. And he knew he could get it from someone else. So he did. And that just meant that our relationship, like, he just threw it away right then and there. So, is what it is. So then he had finally talked me into getting an abortion. He said we could get back together. And I got one. And that's like the most the most fucked thing, because I forgot, I like blocked that out. I'm like, how lame that you were so desperate to like get him to love you again that you would kill your own child. Because we didn't stay together. He let me stay at his house for a couple days, and then he dropped me off at my apartment like I was a whore. And then that was it. Like, just, you know, set me loose. I think I was there for the weekend, maybe a week. We had a Cinco de Mayo party, and I woke up to him having sex with me. I think because he was just kind of freaking out that we had done that. I don't think he wanted to lose that baby. Just everyone was so mean. They called me vanilla. because I wanted to have a monogamous relationship and children. And it had all been kind of ruined by all those people before it even got started. So, yeah, I mean, yeah, you never know what people are going through that they think that that's normal or acceptable. But, yeah, so then May, from like that month on, basically, I just started losing my mind. You know, I started working triples. I'd get up at 5 in the morning and I would just work until midnight because I couldn't be alone. I used to love being alone, but I had to be around people. And all my friends chose Jeremiah. So I really needed them and they weren't there. So I got, I was like, all right, I'll go to work. At least I can get paid to be around people. And, yeah, just kind of kept working. Tried to make friends, dated another guy. I was like, oh, cool. This guy will make Jeremiah jealous. And that guy was kind of an asshole. I didn't want to date another guy like Jeremiah. But I did, because I wanted Jeremiah to be like, see, because he told me when he broke up, you'll never meet another guy that does the things that I do for you. And I was like, oh, it's such bullshit. And you know what? He was right. He was right. You were right. I never will meet another guy that will book Daniel Johnston to come and play a concert for me. No shot. I'll never meet a guy that, let me plan a road trip and tagged along. He didn't, hijack it and do his thing. There's a lot of really great things I can say about Jeremiah. Jeremiah showed me his best self, and I wasn't there yet. And if his friends had been, good people, they would have, just helped me and him to be together, but they helped us split apart. And I guess that was my own doing. Because of Facebook, weird little things I would say in my Facebook bio. I think people saw that as a sign that I wanted to split up with him, but I was just processing my fission from grace. And that was something that I would remember at times and then forget. And that was really hard for me. Because I wouldn't really remember the fact that I had a twin. I just would remember that there's someone I forgot. And that feeling would come over me a lot. And I'd be like, what am I forgetting? And it'd make me so uncomfortable. So yeah, there were a lot of things that I was dealing with that I didn't know how to talk about. Or what I was feeling even. I was just like, whoa, what's that? So, yep. And then I didn't hear from Jeremiah for years. I called him a couple times. He wouldn't answer. I left him a voicemail, kind of an angry voicemail. He didn't reply. I didn't really think that he would. But he hurt me. So I was like, why are you not acknowledging what you've done to me? And he was just, I'm sure, well, you did this to yourself. And it's just what? How can you say that? So yeah, I can kind of see it from both sides now. I couldn't at first. I was just running from it for a long time. And it has been a really hard thing for me to process and be like, wow, I think he really did love you. You were not perfect, You were bad in a lot of ways, which is probably why he stopped loving you. And sought, someone else. So yeah, where Zizi figures into all that. I think she graduated a couple years later. I didn't really my friends came and went. I would still talk to Renee every now and then, and she would keep me, updated on Jeremiah. And I was just like, please don't. Like, being reminded of my old life when it all just kind of fell away to nothing was just not good. People would tell me certain things about him, and it just would hurt. I don't know, like, I could not process the thought of Jeremiah, or that he still might, like, think that he liked me. So it's just like, how can you say that? Maybe he just feels bad. He has to. I was so happy. He just, like, that feeling of him dropping me off at Dre's house and driving back home, knowing that Alyssa's probably already there. He drove my car for years. His car was kind of a junker, and he got a moped so he could get around. People gave him a hard time for driving my car. And I was just like, what? I pay the insurance. That's a nice thing that I can do for him. Yeah, I don't think people ever really understood our relationship. I didn't really understand it. I just tried to do nice things for him, and he just was such a giver. He was always doing nice things. So yeah, it's like a dream. I tried so hard to rebuild my life. A couple of years after that, I don't remember what all happened. It wasn't good. I really needed Jeremiah. I didn't want to admit it. I would rather have been homeless than asking for his help. So I kind of understood why I ended up becoming homeless. It was something he had told me he had worked through, and he fixed it on his own. He was a real bootstrap kind of guy. I don't think he realized, like, how psychologically damaged I was, and if he did, and he just, like, overlooked that, that's, like, what has hurt the most. I thought he knew me. I thought he saw my heart. But maybe everyone's always thought I'm, like, really strong. So they've always thought I'm a lot stronger than... They made me be stronger than I need to be. But, yeah, that fucked me up. I had such high hopes and expectations. I was being loved by this guy. And then I just, like, we just kind of stopped dating and having fun. I was just dating my friends instead. So I would have been pissed if I were in his position. And I get it, I just... All we needed was to, like, go on a trip together. Everything would have been fine. We did go on a few little, day trips up to Sedona. It just wasn't enough.
Can you come here?
Sure.
Please. I can't find Pete. He's got to be in here somewhere.
I have to go to the bathroom, and you're not waking up my child because you're yelling about something.
Dot's the only one who needs to be fed now. I did it. Did you hear what I said?
Got it.
You heard that, right?
I don't know. I couldn't.
You didn't respond.
So yeah. I'm not gonna end up with this guy. I'll just be alone. So, yep, I think in the following year after 2013, or maybe it was, yeah, it had to have been in 2013, we opened up Exchange Your Habit in September of that year. And then I think by December we couldn't afford the rent. We weren't profiting on it. It was like a clothing exchange club format. So you paid a membership and then you would take clothes out, like a library. And yeah, so we weren't really selling enough memberships. People just wanted to buy individual items. Great idea, I'm pretty sure Renee took that idea and made some other apps out of it. Tried saying it was her idea, even though it was mine. And, it's just how people are. We did come up with it, like tune the details together, but it was not by any stretch Renee's idea. It was mine because I love clothes, and she was always like, how do you have so many cool clothes? So she was just kind of wanting to borrow my clothes, and I was like, well, these clothes have value, and we can protect the value of the clothes by, exchanging money to cover, the cost of the whatever. So that happened, and Jeremiah's friends were like supportive. I think people were holding out hope that we would get back together, but I was just so hurt at that point. I could barely, keep a straight face. I went to go see him a couple times at the venues he opened up, and he wasn't there most of the time. I did stop by more than once, and one time I did see him, and we kind of just both looked at each other, and that was it. He didn't see me the same way, and I didn't see him the same way either. So he's got his family, and he looks happy, kind of. So, he never thought I was like good enough. No one did. No, and people still don't. So, yep. But now I guess I've gotten that off my chest. I met a lot of really cool people, and none of them were as cool as Jeremiah, though. So I'd rather have him than all them. But yeah, I don't know how to end this. I've just been in the rinse cycle for like 10 years now or something. I don't even know really what's happened in all this time. Don't really have much to show for it. I have my beautiful girl. I'm very grateful to have her. Finally. But yeah, I still, yeah, I don't know. the thing that hurts for me is to think back to like how desperate, like I desperately wanted Jeremiah to be with me and to love me again. People thought it was for other reasons. I just wanted him to look at me like he used to do. It was the best feeling. He would stand behind me when we were watching concerts. And I'd feel so safe. It was like almost overwhelming. I couldn't like handle it. All the love that he gave. And look what I'm doing now. So it's okay to show your belly.